but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another mountain.
What is love?
Right. So how did you guys meet? How did this love thing start?
Oh my God, it was great. It was one of those typical New York stories where, you know, I'm coming off of the subway and then I was coming up the stairs and he's coming down the stairs. He bumps into me, the orange falls down, and then we look at each other and it's instant love. No, we met up on a hookup app. So we were both looking to have sex. And so, this is interesting though, because when we hook up, right, different names. So he wasn't even going by Steven then, right? He was going by another name. And then, you know, it's interesting. We kept connecting that way. And then I saw an ID badge from his job that had a different name on there. And I was like, yo, is this like he got a different identity? This is, but all of these things people laugh at because this is kind of like what lives in hookup culture when you don't know the other person, but y'all just having a good time having sex. And I'm like, so who is this other person? Like, this name says Steven, but that's not what he's been telling me for like these months. Whatever, right? So I'm like, my friends are like messing with me. They're like, you gotta go find out. So I'm like, I'm going on this mission to find out. So I'm like, every time I go to hang out at this place, you know, it's interesting. We just started a conversation around video games. And what was it, Mortal Kombat?
It was Mortal Kombat
10, right? We started talking about Mortal Kombat 10. And then we kept talking about that. And then that conversation went to something else. And then eventually it just stopped. Like there was like sex, and there was this conversation. And then there were more conversations. It was like, hey, you going to grab some food? And then there was all these other conversations. And it just stopped being about sex because we just started talking about a video game.
Well, I mean, I learned a lot about being vulnerable from this relationship. But what I learned about it the most is that you should always be vulnerable in a relationship. You should not even try to be in a relationship with somebody unless you're going to go into it being at least some kind of capacity of being, you're going to be vulnerable to them. And if you're going to go in there like at 10% vulnerability, that's fine. But like over that time, it should be built up and built up and built up to where you are just completely open and honest with them about everything, even if the mess ups, the screw ups, all the stuff that you don't accomplish. Like you should be able to be accountable, but also vulnerable about the mistakes and the things that you need to do or say to that person. Because if you're not, I mean, there's really no heavy foundation behind it.
It sounds cliche to say, right? Like all the time, but it has to be all the time. Mm-hmm. When I know personally, when I look back over my other relationships, they failed. Two in particular failed miserably because there wasn't room, or there was like this perception of room, or the person just didn't make the choice to be vulnerable, because that's where the truth was, right? That's where the honesty, that's where the right words that needed to be said were hidden in that vulnerable space. It was never going to be articulated because it was locked in that space. And as we know, shit gets unearthed. And it's like, oh, but that's why you responded that way. Oh, that's why you're doing what you're doing. Because the thing you needed to say all the eons ago, or the thing you should have just been okay to say or made okay or say with yourself or versus whoever, your family members, them included, workers, with all of that shit, you didn't. And now here you are. And so I've lied to not even we, but I was going to say we as a people, but I have lied to myself enough times to say, like, I don't need to say that. Or, you know what, I'm going to take this high road, whatever excuse I put in its place so I don't say the thing, and I hold it. Thinking if we good. Somehow I'm going to let it go. That just did it, right? Imagine the shit just went into a void. No, it never works out that way. So I think, when is it? How many seconds in a damn day? Every damn one of those. To this one,
Yeah.
I'm a goddamn superhero. Do you understand? I do it all, player. Like, we want the food. Okay. You want food, you want meal, you want games. No, I'm joking. I think what comes to mind is listening and like really taking in. And I'm learning, because that's an adjustment, not to hold on to every word that he's saying, but like to listen to what he's trying to say. We all are not perfect. We all have a different set of language skills. Our lexicon might be different from each other. And so listening to what he's saying and listening to what he's not saying. I think if I start there, then any kind of like plan or like good intention, or even like what down to what I would want to cook or make sure that he has, it's because I listened to some stuff. I did some gathering of data. And I like doing little shit. I like being an affirming person. I like bigging people up for like, oh no, that was not, I'm going to do that thing, right? And so I like to show love that way. Like, I like the words of affirmation, if you will. That's how I show love. And then I'm like a big, I just hang on them. Like, you gotta be physical. Like, I'm always like, I think walking by the refrigerator, or like walking down the street, and he's really helped me with this. Like, you gotta touch the other person. And that's not even about sex. You just have to just touch the other person. Period. Just do that.
Definitely. So like we said earlier, definitely video games.
You show love to me by video games,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. Because I'm gonna out you for a second.
Oh, damn.
You had an issue with playing games often and letting yourself like jump between multiple ones and really letting yourself dive deep into them again.
This is true.
Just because you just had a whole different life before that. But after really breaking that wall with him, like he just went in, loves video games. Then he was like, maybe I want to do the streaming. Maybe I want to do this. And like now he's a streamer. Now he's doing all these crazy things. So it broke all these walls. And I just think it's one of the biggest things and biggest pluses in our life is that we get to play games together or separate, and it still brings us together. Because even if we're not playing the same one, when we're taking a break and we see each other, we're like, oh, hey, how you doing? Quick little kiss. And the next thing you know, we're talking about, oh, this is how my game's going. It's kind of crazy. I want to try it. And he's talking about his game. It's like we talk for almost an hour. And we're like, oh, I want to go back. I'm going to go back too. See you later. Love you too, bye. And we just like leave and just chew like 20 feet away from each other, and just doesn't feel like we're actually 20 feet away. So video games are definitely a huge thing. Another thing is definitely the like words of affirmation. I make sure that because of all of the crazy things in this world that he feels, I am here affirming him for who he is, and also making sure there and just shutting up and listening, because I'm always the fixer. I like to do let me like, oh, that's like, I heard the problem. Let me just fix it. Let me just do this now. Let me just bulldoze through it. And it's like, no, you need to sit there and just listen to the entire conversation, let him finish. So it's something I'm still learning how to listen, and I think it's something that is a journey, and it's something I'm enjoying. Made sure that it came across to me very clearly was that he needs a place to feel safe where he can just express himself. Literally just tell me all these crazy white people out there, and I know that he's not talking about me, or just like the certain white group of white people who are like getting their shit together. Like it's definitely like I need to make sure I have to be the ally, but also be the spouse, and also be the one who's there for him. So it's like playing different roles and taking on all those roles at once, because I'm not just this one thing anymore. I'm your bounce board, and I have to be your ally while being this bounce board. I can't hear the language you're saying, and also just be like, oh, I'm being grouped in with this. It's like, no, you need an outlet, and the world does not give him or people like him the outlet to just vent like that. So I want to make sure that I'm one of the fine like beacons for him to just let it all out, and just let him know that this place is safe for him to just express how he feels, get the anger and the frustrations out, because the world is not 100% amazing.
You got this one, Tony. I'm happy to help you. I didn't hit you. There's a difference between pushing you.
You were the aggressor, buddy.
You're aggressive on the neighborhood.
Someone came running at
Walk
the
out.
You better walk away. You walk away. You talking to my wife right now.
That's your wife?
Walk away.
I didn't do
Walk
anything
away.
for your wife to speak.
Check it out. You either walk away or I'm going to carry your ass out of here.
Dude, if you touch
What do you want to do?
You better not touch me.
And I think to add to that, like I done pushed his ass like on some shit verbally, y'all. Don't go crazy, but like I done pushed him like no, and I think I don't think we've ever said this, but it is not about a thank you. It's about an acknowledgement. I see you. And so if I'm asking people to interrogate my coworkers, and are you talking to your family members? I hear him all the time. And depending on, if we've done something where he's interrogating his white privilege, or like we're just maybe, what I like to say, decentering our conversation or decentering our lives around from whiteness, and he's like, this is some shit that I know I need to fix, and he can't have that conversation with someone in his family, then we're not really doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hear you having conversations with your family, and I have to affirm that for him, like, yeah, that wasn't an easy conversation because I know who you're talking to and I know what y'all talking about. But, are you all right? You good? What do you need? So I also have to be, because we're in an interracial relationship, I had to be that support as well. Because, like, if I want you to go out to do the work, especially if you're not used to doing the work, that don't feel good. So you need somebody to help you out. So, I see that you do that, and it is appreciated because everybody ain't doing the damn work.
Yeah. And I will say that like white privilege is a journey, and I even grew up in like middle class suburban area, but like the part of Virginia I grew up in is like a super big melting pot of like, I wouldn't say a big melting pot of diversity, but it's extremely diverse, because even when I came to New York, people were like, you're gonna have culture shock. I walked in the city and I was like, no, I pretty much see this much culture in Virginia, in the area that we live in, and it's not as intense because New York is
some kind of middleman, and that's where old Daniel comes in. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'm walking here. Up yours, you son of a bitch. You don't talk me that way. Get out of here.
Crazy melting pot. It's definitely not as intense, but it's like I didn't have a culture shock because the area that I did grow up in, it was middle class or lower class, like lower middle class, white, black, Asian, and it was everybody. It was the literal military area suburbs. Like everybody was in the same predicament, the same shit. So like I had the jadedness still of white privilege being, oh, like we're all the same. Da, 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 da. So I had some things that I definitely needed to break and get over, even though I grew up in I would say a pretty cultured area with many diversities. But even with that, and being raised by a very racially open family too, like I was allowed to have black friends over, and anybody could be my friend. I could date anybody. Nobody would really go against me unless it was my father's side, who's mad racist and really religious. But they're a whole different story. But it's just
part two.
That's
come
part
back.
two.
Where are they now?
But like that it's something that I had to come to terms with, because I'm like, I'm not racist at all. Well, yes, you can be a white person and not be racist, but you have some subconscious biases and subconscious tics that everybody does, and you have to be aware of it. And it's something that I wasn't aware of until I started dating a black man in America, especially. Because it's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not racist. And like, first thing I say to him when it's a vacation, my family doesn't see color, and I don't understand why that's wrong. And he goes off, rightfully so, you get upset. And I'm like, yeah, you should have, because why not? And then he explains it to me, and I'm like, wow, I've been saying that for years, and this is not okay. And that's something I had to diminish, and I don't even say anymore.
And then this is Pittsburgh. We got going. We just, yeah.
Oh.
This space is also going to include our podcast space. So we were actually just talking about it before you got here, where we're going to have some seating on bar stools here, and then we're going to have a table we're getting here because we have, and then we're going to get a couple of the microphones. And so what's interesting, I'll close this door. When he's on his stream and his lighting is usually red, all of this shows up. So all of this has also been purposefully put in a place so when he's streaming, you get this really nice accentuated background. And we're, we measured out and laid plans for a curved screen here. So that's the version where you saw TV in my room, but we're going to curved screen with his. And there's some meticulous places for like figurines, because this space will also be used like to have that kind of like updated video game nerd feel as we're doing video podcasting work, so we can film from inside this space as well. But again, the interesting thing, he built both of these systems.
Wow.
Wired it and everything.
That's what you go ahead, you know.
Well, actually, this one's really easy, where I feel like I had to take love away.
911 operator Harris, where is your emergency?
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
Okay, how old is your girlfriend?
She's 26. Bring it.
You said 26. Where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the grill right now. I don't know.
Okay.
Mama.
You said she's 26. Is she alert and able to talk to you?
No, she's not. Breathe. God.
Okay. And you said you're in apartment number 4?
Hell. Oh, my God.
Earlier, we were talking about how, white privilege has been a journey, and Steve and I have had conversations about just how that has, what's not just, because it's interesting, a big part of my heart belongs in Louisville, Kentucky too, so when Breonna Taylor happened, I'm listening to people I call family tell me, and before Breonna, that place has also had its issues, so the places I call home are on fire and burning. So it's not just conversations about how this impacts me as a black man. It's when you say this when we talk, when you say this when we argue, that's how it feels. When you don't when you just don't understand why this is hitting different. This pandemic is hitting different for my family than it is your family. Here's why. When he sees so much now, because some of those conversations weren't pleasant. Some of those conversations weren't nice, and sometimes it was because after a trend of not getting what I needed to feel safe as a black queer man, I felt like we needed a break on things, because this has to be understood first. And and there have been times where we just needed some space so we could reconnect, because you can't, some of this stuff you just can't figure out in a conversation. You gotta talk about it, and you gotta pull apart. You have to, no, I need you to sit, because I want the relationship, but I can't have you inadvertently, accidentally, with good intention, oops, I didn't know, shit, I just can't take that anymore, because I have to now go out in the world to get paid to do my art and deal with this. So I can't come home with you can't call yourself my home and we still are dealing with some issues where you not interrogating and challenging your white privilege, because I am a black man in America, and that shit is fucking rough. So I don't want to say I took love away. I don't, in the sense of do it or else. I felt like I was approaching it I know he wants this relationship to work. Okay. And he is a white man in America, and I'm a black man in America. If we are going to make this work earnestly, authentically, there's some shit we gotta get square. And before we do anything else, let's get this square. So, yes, reductive in a way, it was love. That was the example I would use for taking love away, because I don't want to build a relationship on a shitty ass foundation, or a foundation that I'm not affirmed and seen in first, period. And I say that on the other side of that, and I feel like the work is there. We definitely are growing in that capacity, and the conversations are not nearly as one-on-one. It's we can actually dive into shit, and I feel like I'm heard. And that's a good place to start and build a relationship.
Well, damn.
What is love? Take 4. Love received.
You think?
Yeah, I do.
Go
that.
for it.
So, like, when did I show love and it wasn't received? My father. So, like I mentioned earlier, my mother had me young. So like 17. Had my whole family, her side of the family raised me. So, going to my dad, love him very much. Don't respect him. Mainly because he was a cheater. Cheated on my mother when I was like 2 or 3. That whole thing ended. My mother starts dating other people, so I already know my dad is not even in her future. Like, she is over him. And when I went to go visit my father in those coming years as a kid, who would go say, "Yeah, I want to stay at my dad's house," I have to call him myself, talk to my dad because my mom isn't going to be the one to do that because she hates him, and then go to my father's house by having her drop me off, and she's like, "Hey," to my stepmother, and then, "Hi, you," to my father. So seeing that whole dynamic was interesting, and then just the entire time every single time being around my dad, I felt the love, but it was never enough. Like, it felt like, I'm here, I'm finally here, and then it's like, yeah, you're here, cool, all right, and it's like, okay, and like I felt like he never knew what to do with me. And then as I got older, he had my brother and my sister. And that was what I went to go visit more often for. And I'm like, well, I'm not really visiting for you anymore. I'm visiting for my brother and sister. Like, you're just here. And I started to realize that. And it's like the first time I realized that he actually made a very heavy impact on how love is in my life. And it was a pretty negative impact. Was like, I can say I love you and go do whatever I want, and you still know that I love you. But it's like, whatever I'm doing is super selfish. And that's something I had to like break. I'm still breaking that, which is crazy. Like, it's something that I'm like, because he did a lot of selfish things. And the number one thing is, like, when I was like in those years, my mom and him separated, he would say, "Oh, I'm gonna come see you." Never saw me. So he would I had that, but it's literally suppressed in my head because I don't remember them happening. I never remember those days. I don't remember him saying that to me. And my mother's like, "That happened." And I was like, "Well, I don't remember." So that must have been some stuff I suppressed. Some heavy shit. And because all I remember is finally going to his house and seeing him and my brothers and sisters. All I remember is the good times. So I feel like my brain was just like, no. And then being told that, it's like, oh wow. And then having it's interesting. My dad started to show love a lot more when I got older, because he started to realize the error of all his ways and like what he wanted to actually be a father and be there. So it just felt weird. Like, I was kind of like the trial kid, and then the other two were like the successes. So I have this weird place with my father where it's like, I love him, but I don't think he will ever truly like love me.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Oof. Just thinking about that. It's like it's just the realness, right? Like, there's an earnest place, and that it's so, as an educator, and you can definitely, and now, as a father, like, how many times have we realized that the kid wasn't doing the homework or acting out in class or starting a fight, had nothing to do with anything happening in that school. It's because somebody just didn't give them no damn hug. Nobody's hugging them, right? And or the person that they want to hug them won't. Like, we've been dealing with that shit our entire career. Church. We'll go with that one came up. And I think church is nothing more than middle school. It really isn't. Relationships, groupies, cliques, all of that stuff is very important. Even though, yes, the sermons and the music and all of that is super important. The scriptures.
It's on our mind, right? Yeah. Okay, well, I just want to let y'all know how. Listen,
don't lean on me when you're not strong, 'cause I'm not your friend. I will not help you carry on. And I know you're saying it won't be long, but you cannot fool me. Find somebody else to lean on. Don't call me your brother. So yes. I have to do that too. We work at institutions where, right, there's structure in place. We have leaders and directors, we have group members and all of that. I have lesson plans, I have lesson structure, I have lesson approaches, I have all of this, and it's still a fucking middle school. So that is, I'm sorry, is this a family documentary? You can beep me, you can put a beep on me. I like beeps. I got it on my stream set up. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, church is like that. And I say that because when I was married, because I've been divorced. So at that time, at that church, very accepting and affirming, and here I am in a couple, in a marriage that is very public, very well known around this church. And I do a lot at this church. I think on my time, and I like giving, I like showing love, I like being a part of all of these different things. And I thought that because I had done so much over the years, that there'd be just a little bit more respect for me when things went down. And I ended up getting a divorce. And there's just, you make the statement, please respect privacy, and none of it's respected. And I am one to, now I'll handle some business, but I don't do outside crazy hood stuff. Like, you will never catch me. You can go, anybody can look at my social media. I don't get on those kind of wars with that kind of personal stuff. And then when you realize that a bunch of people who are supposed to not only be friends, but these are also faith believers. These are people you've shared spirituality with, and anybody who knows, who gets spirituality knows exactly what I'm talking about. And it's almost like your life becomes entertainment. And because you won't respond, I won't respond, you keep going and going and going. And it had got to a point where I had to stop showing up. And I can't. Now, things have definitely gotten better as time went on, but that is like, I'm here for something else, right? I'm here to give something else. And all you want to do is talk about something that is very painful for me. And all you want to do is like laugh at it and like, you know, and people want to gossip. I don't want to gossip about my life. Like, this is supposed to be the place where it's supposed to be safe. And I was not safe. I wasn't safe from any of you all. And I reconciled some of those feelings, but that shit hurt. Because for all of our saintlyhood and all of our scriptures and all of our isms, we still a bunch of middle schoolers. You know, just big ones. So the first one is like my first, I guess I call him my first because I met him undergrad, like first time at college. I'm first time out of the hood. Even though I love the hood, this is a whole different landscape. I don't know what this is. This is crazy. And this is great. And I'm, 19. I'm like 20, like, what is happening? This is awesome. This is me going towards the future. And so I meet somebody who I just think is just the world. And it's the first time I ever felt that way. And it was like this amazing like semester of love into the summer. And I was just all in. And we, interestingly enough, both of us hadn't come out yet. So this is like my closeted relationship. But because we were so in love with each other, we was like, you gonna go home, you gonna tell your mama, and I'm gonna go home, and I'm gonna tell my mama. And because we love each other. We didn't live in the same city. So we leave campus with this pact of like, I love you, be here. I go home.
Oh, that whole...
Yeah, I go home, I tell my mama, And that's, we knew, right? We knew the chain reaction was gonna come. We knew it was gonna hit, right? And so I'm on the phone with him, and it was like I couldn't do it. And eventually, we get back to campus, and he hadn't. Because now my life is transformed. I'm now living this out life, and he's like, no, I can't do it. No, won't do it. And he decided that he wanted to live a more heterosexual existence. And then he married my best friend. Yeah, that was crazy. But, we don't want to talk about that. Because that set me on this course of like, there was nothing I could do. I felt like I was doing everything that I could to like be the best that I could be for this person. And I just wanted you to just be on this journey with me, and you just couldn't do it. Now, there's a follow-up to that. He has since figured out some things. But at that time, I needed you to be there after I had felt like I'd given so much of myself. And that was really hard for me to deal with over the years. I was always in my mind, like, I want to make sure that I can give you what you want, give you what you need. Well, eventually, a few years later, I got married. And it was and I thought, like, I was on this path, that's what you want. Marriage equality was a thing that wasn't happening. When I met this person, marriage wasn't even a thought. But that's what you wanted, because we had been denied so many things. I want the family. All right, I want the 2 dogs. I want the house. I want the picket fence. If we could do a fence, it can be iron on, or we can figure that out. But I still want the goddamn fence, right? Like, I want all of that. And you see all of that. And then you see this movement, and you see how all these gay rights start happening. You see yourself come up, and you see someone who also is achieving, and you have all of this, and you build all of this, and you think, I got the picture. I got the recessed lighting. I got the nice kitchen. I got the in-ground pool. No, y'all, legit. Like, I had all of this. Like, all of this was there, and I'm thinking, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm supposed to be getting. I have not made it. I am just some old little ghetto black kid from the hood in Buffalo trying to be gay, trying to be married, trying to be fabulous, and I'm actually living that existence. And I'm going to brunches and doing all of that shit, only to find out that the person you built that with does not love you. Matter of fact, has not been in love with you for the majority of that relationship. When they tell you things like, I wasn't sure if we should have got married, but it was important that we did because I was the best thing in the bunch. I was at the top of the list. I hit most of the check marks. I was seemingly the best we were going to do, and we produced well together. So shouldn't that supplement, can't that cover, certain parts of the relationship? And then it just deteriorated until it became something that I didn't even recognize anymore. And all this time I had been fighting, trying to be the thing that I thought I needed to be, that was going to make you be like, aha. And when I finally was told this, it was after years of trying, really, and understanding, like, there was nothing I could ever do that was going to make you love me. That hurt. That hurt a lot. And it's crazy because, being the overachieving kid, getting all the straight A's, working to get all the scholarships, that's what I know how to do. I know how to make shit happen. And because you're so good at it, that's why you say yes. You don't say yes because you love me. You say yes because I'm good at what I do. And I would say that's when I say love hurts, because I have learned that was never love. That was opportunity.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Final, what is love? Take 8. So, lovebirds, what is love? How do you define it?
Quick response, love is work. Like I said earlier, it's not the kitschy stuff you see on TV.
You can curse. It's
Okay. It's not the kitschy shit that you see on TV or read in books. I mean, books are more accurate, but it's definitely a lot more work, and it's definitely a lot more about listening to the person and not trying to be the one who's right, is what I've learned. But it definitely is something that you have to work for and actually question yourself on, and not be afraid to question yourself on often.
Ooh, I love that. Question yourself.
And be honest with yourself.
Yes. See, that's the thing, right? Like, love is, it's like it's complicated, but it ain't. It's like, but it's not though, but it is. It's not.
But it is.
But it, right? So it's
the
like,
surface layer is beautiful, but what's underneath is scary.
You can, like, if you don't, what is love? Love is the best thing in the world. It sounds cliche, but it really is the only thing that's going to matter, because it's the thing of why I'm doing what I'm doing, why he's doing what he's doing, why we are so adamant about, like, people embracing, like, video game culture, or, like, we're a different kind of gay couple. Like, it's not about running to the bars or any of that other trendy bull stuff. Like, it's other things. And, like, there's a different narrative that exists because it feels good to us. Love feels good. Love is definitely a lot of damn work. Well, love is so free. Like, you should, like, it's so telling because, right, complicated but not. You don't have to pay for that. You can't pay for it. You can give it so much, and you instantly know when you don't have it. No matter how much we want to lie to ourselves, we know when it's not there. It is the one thing I wanted after I got past my divorce and everything. I didn't want a fucking house. I don't want a boat. I don't want any of that. I just wanted love. I guarantee you that's what I wanted. That's love shit.
Too little love for what the world needs now.
What's love?
I gotta go in front of me.
He said on three.
On three. Yeah, I got it, damn it.
Lord, we don't need another mountain.
What is love? That's a rap. No, you put a hand in there. No,
and the hillsides enough to climb.